move on to this other Midland 4001 from the same customer as the first. And well, it's January 1982. At least it's got the right power connector on this one. I mean, to be honest, this looks the nicer of the two. So, no output, meter light not working, transmit light not working. Yeah, lots of things there. So, again, we'll worry about the mics at the end of this. I'll do all the mics together. Antenna sockets and all that. No. Now, I've got a bit of a surprise for this customer. One of our other trade customers is actually sending a pair of lids for the other set for him free. So there we go. What I like about this is it should have the countersunk screw at the back, because it has that funny slide bracket. So at least it's got the original screws in it. I'm not going to take it apart any further. We'll run through some tests, and of course we're now doing these extra tests on the new job sheets. He came and picked his big box of radios up today, did that customer. I'm going to go and get a power lead, or go and get the clipboard. So these are the power leads which we manufacture. So I just pulled this out of the box of prepared ones. We have them on eBay. Good, well, let's plug that in. This power lead is going to be extra tested. Plug in the PA speaker. And we're going to plug in our microphone. So once again we'll use the standard replacement mic. Right, I've no problem in powering this up at full power because it's a working set-ish. At least it was on 31. Right, so we want that in DX. We want that like that. We want that off. Let's switch PA. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, 1 2. Good. That's had a bash at some time. When I was at Nottingham Radio, occasionally you got people with trying to sell us stolen radios, and sometimes they were our own radios which had been on rent, and they always managed to have the serial number missing. And you think, oh, here we go. But the serial number is repeated several times and electronically, and so I would put the serial number back on it, and then, oh, it's on the stolen list. I'll be keeping that, thank you. Right, let's see what power it's doing. Switch to the 3 watt scale, and as he says, nothing. So I'm just going to see whether it is transmitting internally. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Possibly not. Just override the squelch however you do that. Testing 1 2. Okay, so it's not. Right, we'll come back to some of that. So, no. Yes. Right, we'll put on 2779125 on the signal generator. Okay. So we've got that on the signal generator. Turn the wick up. And it's receiving absolutely nothing. Do you know what, folks? Chances are it's not generating any channels. I don't think I've ever had that on a Maxon set. We might have to put all those missing parts in to do the VCO. So what I'm going to do, without even getting the service manual out, I'm going to see if the 8-volt regulator is running. Because if the 8 volts isn't running, the radio is not going to do very much at all. The meter lamp won't be anything to do with this. That's just a duff bulb, I'm sure. Now I can't remember whether these are negative earth or what. We'll soon find out. Yeah, that was 13.8. I know you didn't see it because my hand was over it. So the regulator chip printed circuit board crack there. Printed circuit board crack right along. So, got the earth plane here, earth plane there, and 1, 2 tracks just there. So the first thing I was going to do was to put my earth prod on there for the earth point, and then measure these two voltages, because we should have rail voltage, and which I think is the upper one, and we should have 8 volts on the lower one, with that being at ground. So although that earth wouldn't matter unless there's something important there, chances are that we've got cracks there. So I think the first thing to do, it's been dropped, hasn't it, and broken. So I think we'll put a wire link on this one for starters. Right, I'll pause the video while we do that. Right, so we've done that. Let's bring the camera back out. So the first one I've put a wire link across on the board. The second one I've put a wire link across the board. The two small ones are too small for me to reliably link, so we've got point-to-point wires, and the set hasn't changed in any way. So I will, although it's a red herring, it needed doing. Right, with the radio on, 13.8 volt rail voltage, and we have the 8 volt regulated voltage there. So I'm just going to pop it into transmit whilst holding those prods on. Just make sure it's not being dragged down. No. I'm not quite sure what malfunctions that would cause. So we tested it in PA and it's doing that. So the next thing we're going to check is whether the reference oscillator is running. See if we can monitor it at a handy point. So you can see we've got the 10.24 quite clearly showing as 10.24. So it's not that it isn't doing that. I think this is a situation where we're going to have to put the missing parts in and do the VCO. I've never had to do this before. Pause the video while I get on with it. Right, it's now operating. So there's another track crack just there. So I've put a link across there as well. While I'm at it, I've just kind of gone through the VCO for potential dry joints. What's that one? That's a potential dry joint. So we know what a faff it will be doing the LED for the transmit light and the meter lamp. Right, so we don't need to faff about trying to put extra parts in to make the VCO happen. And let's go over to picture in picture and let's see we've got transmit, yeah. Right, so we'll put in some of these figures. Let's look at deviation. Wow, low. Oh, good grief. Wow, low. That needs to come down. Not doing that. And the frequency. Let's move over to the frequency. Wrong button. Move over to the counter. That is brilliant. It's just slightly high, which is ideal. Not going to touch that. Let's look at the sign add on this radio. It's exactly 1 microvolt for 12 dB. For 10 dB it is 0.86. For 20 dB it's 3. And squelch, we're going to say, what's the maximum? It never opens. So we've got, let's see where that meter is. It's okay, that. And on the dummy load, it's plus 30. Come back to those. So this, we don't know about those either yet. Right, well, let's see whether we can get 4 watts out of it. Let's go back to that meter as well. .6, 3.8, and the advance, it's like an auction. I wonder how many years it carried on working when it was dropped for it to, for the effects of the drop to take place. Now you can touch some of these coils. It's not something I like doing, but you can. So it says 11, 12, 13 and 15, and then touch up 10, 8 and 9. So 11, 12, 13, 15. Yeah, 10, 8, 9, 12, oh yeah, 11, 12, 15, 30, it mention 13? Yes, it does. So, not that one, I don't think this is a good technique, but it's in the manual. So in fact it wants to be pushed together, that one. It's 3.9 watts, it's about this one. Again, that wants to be pushed together. It's 4 watts. It's bang on the money, 4 watts. So, let's go through the channels. Channel 40, 3.9 watts. Channel 1, 4.05 watts. Right, we're back to channel 20. Let's do the meter. So that's the back one of the two. It's pretty worn, this meter, but that is the 4. So we've done that. Now the deviation needs to come down. Wow, that was still too loud. Or too wide, shall we say. Wow, that's spot on. We've had another box of radios delivered from our trade customer who picked up his big box of radios. He either says there's a Fidelity 1000 in that box, or he's bought a Fidelity 1000 and it hasn't come yet. So I'll look forward to that. It's like getting the puppy, which has got an ear missing and a poorly leg, doesn't it, from the doggy rescue centre. I prefer the radios that have a bad reputation. Oh, you know what? I think we've done the transmitter, haven't we? Good. Right, let's move on to the receiver. So we'll start. We are at S9, so we're going to start by putting the camera onto the oscilloscope. It's going to take longer to do that LED and that meter lamp than it is to do the tune-up and the repair. Bit more volume, so we get a bit more meaningful display. Detector coil is here. Oh, it's miles out. Miles and miles and miles out. Good. Right, we'll now get 4 dB on that synad meter. And see whether we can get a bit more receive sensitivity out of the set. This morning's customer has warned me that 2 of the sets he's brought have been 80 channeled and therefore they've failed because of that, so they've got to be modified back to standard and repaired. You'll enjoy the bill for that. Just going to put a bigger signal on for these two in the IF. There we go. Let's read off what we've got now. So for 12 dB, we've got 0.55 microvolts. So if you thought this set was good before, it's certainly going to be now. The 10 dB synad is now doing 0.48, and if it'll do 20 eventually, probably, it is 1.5. Good. And let's see what it hears down to. So that's 0.3 of a micro. Let's put a different tone on so it's easy to hear. I can hear it down to 0.15 of a microvolt. Right, the next thing we want to do is to put the meter to S9. It's banging across at the moment. And that's now spot on the 9. Then we need to deal with that pesky squelch which was never ever opening. So I'm going to turn, I'll put this onto there. I'm going to turn the squelch to full and adjust the preset until such time as the radio opens up. That gave me a little bit of a, I think the word's a fart, so I just want to clean that. And these sets don't have low power. That's 100 microvolts exactly. I guessed that one right. So now we'll do the opposite. So it's 100 microvolts tight, meaning that the volume, the squelch control's at full. Now the threshold, put the signal generator to standby. I've parked it at 0.3 of a microvolt. We'll put the squelch to threshold, which is just there. Switch the signal generator back on. That came back in then early. And again, it's come back in straight away. So it's opening at 0.75 of a microvolt. Oh no, it's not. It's opening much less than that. I'm on the wrong scale. It's opening at 0.24 of a microvolt. That's fantastic. Scratchy corner, here we come. But we've done that. Let's check transmit current 1.085. Good. Well, there's nothing for it. I'm going to have to take the front off, aren't I, and deal with these broken LED and duff bulb. Right, so I've done the TX LED. They are a pain. It's taken longer to do that than I did the rest of the whole set. I've done the meter lamp. We'll put the speaker lid back on. While I was at it, I cleaned the front, because having had to take the front off, it's only a sensible and courteous thing to do to clean the front, so that looks somewhat smarter. So we'll pop these plugs out. I did check that socket, I didn't show you that. Make sure there was nothing, because there's a capacitor on the back of that and it can get snagged and it can short. So I've checked that. So that's what we've ended up doing. The meter lamp solders in just there. So it's always do the crack there, and hopefully it'll all work again when I put the knobs on it. So if it's on channel 20, can we get the knob well, you can't even see the numbers on that anymore, can you? So I don't need to line that up apart from a big dot. I've got these knobs in the order I took them off, just in case there's wear. So that's the on and off. That last one, if I just show you with a screwdriver, the mic gain, this radio's been dropped on that, so it's kind of wonky. Now I could put that in the vise and I could snap it off. So I'm not going to do that. So you can see that's what's happened. It's dropped on that, and it's just, the chassis is pretty rugged, but it's just been enough to crack the printed circuit. And that might have happened over 20 years ago, and it's taken this long for it to actually form those cracks. And that's why I haven't just soldered the tracks on the printed circuit. I've actually put some physical links in. So let's get that there. I'll get that there. And I'll put the lid on. And I'll put one screw in it. There's nothing worse than putting all the screws in it and finding something's not working right. Something gets caught putting it back together. You know the situation. Right, there we go. I've just had my meter come back, the SWR meter with the built-in matcher. So we could have done the AWI on this, but it isn't something I'm going to. I'll tell you what, we'll just unplug the aerial. We'll do what we're not supposed to do. It does, it comes on. So that's set right. So normally we'd set them for a 3-to-1 SWR. I don't know why I just plugged that back into the test equipment when all we wanted to do was to plug it into the roof aerial. And I'll look at the figures on the other set he sent in. It'd be funny if this one worked better. We're going to do a scratchy corner test. Now, don't say we've got bars out on the display. I bet. Right. We're going to have to take the front back off. Right, so we'll. So we've got LED center horizontal right hand digit bar out. And this is the danger, you know, you resurrect a radio that probably hasn't worked for donkey's years, and then there's something. I remember when we had the television, we did television sets, and you know, you put a new line output transformer in. Americans call them flybacks, but in the UK, the line output transformer. And a lot of money, and you change the tripler and all that kind of stuff. And you know, you lose a 50 quid bill, and then you get the picture on it, and it's the dullest as dishwater picture because the tube's knackered. And you think, well, I wouldn't have done all that work if it was such a dreadful picture. I thought it would be better when you'd done it. No. Right, so we'll go back to where we just about were, and that was flicking around the channels. So presumably that's 39. Okay, so in conclusion, we've got it on the aerial now. We've got it back together. As you can see, it's on 19, and we know it's 19 because that's 20. So, you know, you sent a bit of ours out. I had a word with the customer. It turns out that when he was in Sweden as a lorry driver, long distance lorry driving, he had a very bad crash, and the overhead console that this radio was in was damaged, and that's why the mic gain control's a bit wonky, and that's why you've got that crack on the printed circuit board. And it has gone on working for a number of years, so that's the reason. And he's driven thousands and thousands of miles with this radio in the past, and that's why I wanted it servicing. So that's that. We'll have a flick through like we do. I think there's a bit of a lift on. One niner Roger. No, well, we'll do a scratchy corner test later on with Mr. Chippy. At least it shows 31 properly. So thank you for watching the Midland 4001, second set from this customer. At least we'll be able to get it to work for him. Now tomorrow we're going to do Maxcom 4E, sorry we're not, we're going to do Maxcom 6E, and that's the one that the very kind benefactor Alan from North Lincolnshire has kindly sent us a couple of weeks ago. So we've got that to do from him, and I'm really looking forward to doing that Maxcom 6E. So there we are. Catch you next time.